loud.
Most people acknowledge that not all governments have a moral right to govern and that there are sometimes morally legitimate reasons for disobeying the law, as when a particular law prescribes behavior that is clearly immoral. It is also commonly supposed that such cases are special exceptions and that in general, the fact that something is against the law counts as moral as well as legal ground for not doing it. Example, we generally have a moral duty to obey a law simply because it is the law.
All right, so what's going on so far? This is really interesting to me. And I'm like, yes, I agree.
So they're saying like there's this like general, I don't know, opinion that people hold that like the government has a moral right to govern, or not all governments have a moral right to govern, and that there's certain cases where it's legitimate to disobey the law if you find that it is immoral.
Right. So they're saying like, yeah, which that makes it like I'm thinking of certain situations where it's like just because that's the law, like if I feel like it's morally wrong to do that, like I'm not going to do it. But
Yeah.
but then we go on to say that these are special cases.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you want
and
me
the fact that something is against the law counts as moral, that something is against the law counts as moral as well as legal grounds for not doing it. Okay, excellent.
But the theory known as philosophical anarchism denies this view, arguing instead that people who live under the jurisdiction of government have no moral duty to those governments to obey their laws. Some commentators have rejected this position because of what they take to be highly counterintuitive implications. One, that no existing government is morally better than any other, since all are in a sense equally illegitimate, and two, that lacking any more obligation to obey any law, people may do as they please without scruple. In fact, however, philosophical anarchism does not entail these claims. So
All
there's
right.
this other there's this other belief basically that denies the view that people don't have to do what governments say by any means. They can do their
I
own
feel like
thing.
since we stopped first, we've brought in two views, right?
Mm-hmm.
In addition, because we talked about what some people think, but then it comes in and says, but the theory known as Arcanism denies that view.
Mm-hmm. So we have the
But
view that not that there you don't have you can disobey the law if it's morally illegitimate, and then the anarchism view.
then we have people that reject the anarchist position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So what? Okay, so far, what kind of passage is this? Are they? Why do you think they're writing this to inform, persuade, or cost benefit analysis or contrast?
Ooh, I'm kind of like a mixture between inform and cost benefit
I
analysis.
agree.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we don't. And the difference between the two at the end, we might decide is like, are they going to tell? Actually, I'll ask you this: what makes us? It can be a cost benefit analysis, but where can it really become a cost benefit analysis instead of inform?
They're probably going to pick one over the other at the
Yes.
end.
Where inform could be I'm literally just sharing the pros and cons of both of these sides, and I don't actually pick something.
Okay.
All right. So go on to the next paragraph.
First, the conclusion that no government is morally better than any other does not follow from the claim that nobody owes moral obedience to any government. Even if one denies that there is a moral obligation to follow the laws of any government, one can still evaluate the morality of the policies and actions of various governments. Some governments do more good than harm, and others more harm than good to their subjects. Some violate the moral rights of individuals more regularly, systematically, and seriously than others. In short, that it is perfectly consistent with philosophical anarchism to hold that governments vary widely in their moral stature.
All right. So what happened here?
So it seems like we're breaking down like the two counterintuitive implications that commentators who rejected anarchism say. And so we're basically saying with the first one that because there's no government that's better than any other, so the claim that nobody owes moral obedience to government, it doesn't follow. And
So do we have an author's opinion in here at all?
yes, he's kind of leaning towards he doesn't like the claim that they're making here
Okay.
with the counterintuitive.
All right. Continue on.
Keep reading.
Yep.
Second, philosophical anarchists maintain that all individuals have basic, non-legal moral duties to one another, duties not to harm other in their lives, liberty, health, or goods. Even if governmental laws have no moral force, individuals still have duties to refrain from those actions that constitute crimes in the majority of legal systems, murder, assault, etc. Moreover, philosophical anarchists hold that people have a positive moral obligation to care for one another, a moral obligation that they might even choose to discharge by supporting cooperative efforts by governments to help those in need. And where others are abiding by established laws, even those laws derived from mere conventions, individuals are morally bound not to violate those laws when doing so would endanger others. Thus, if others obey the law and derive their vehicles on the right, one must not endanger them by driving on the left. For even though driving on the left is not inherently immoral, it is morally wrong to deliberately harm the innocent. So I guess the second paragraph is basically disproving those who rejected the claim, like the second part, that lacking any moral obligation to obey any laws, they're going to do whatever they want. And he's saying that they have like this moral duty between all of them to promote like the lives, liberty, and health, and that they're not going to go their way to harm innocent people.
And why does he bring that in here? Like, what is it? Is it the law itself that is what's causing that, or what?
They hold this like moral obligation to care for one another. And I guess like because there's no law, everybody is like commonly accepted this, and they do that within their own duty.
Right. 'Cause it's like for this greater good, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So how do you? Okay. So where do you think that this passage ends on? Does this author take an opinion, or?
I think, I mean, I don't want to say take an opinion, but he rejects the two reasons that people reject philosophical anarchism. Like, I don't know if he necessarily explicitly says, like, this is the way to go, but he kind of goes against, like, what your two implications are incorrect. And here's why.
Excellent. I love that. All right. So what do you think is what do you think is the main point of this? Like, what would you predict?
Um,
And really
I
bring in like, what is that? And really bring into what you just said of like what the purpose was. So use your purpose to get to what this main point is.
I think the purpose was to show the two main reasons people reject political anarchism are incorrect.
Yes. And excellent. All right. So let's go ahead and start with A.
Some views that certain commentators consider to be implications of philosophical anarchism are highly counterintuitive. All right, let's keep that one in the running.
Okay. You can leave that one.
Contrary to what philosophical anarchists claim, some governments are morally superior to others, and citizens under legitimate governments have moral obligations. No,
I don't like that one either. Like, contrary, some governments are morally superior. Like, that's definitely not, he's not like arguing like, hey, some of these governments are better than others. No.
Yeah, like we say we completely knock that out in the paragraph too. C, it does not follow logically from philosophical anarchism that no government is morally better than any other, or that people have no moral duties towards one another. This is the opposite of what we said.
Okay, so so it does not follow logically from philosophical argument that no government. Okay, so the anarchists think that the government is morally better than others, right? And they have people to moral duty and than any other, or that people have no moral duties toward each other. That actually is what people think, right?
Like, not the author, because doesn't the author say that, oh wait, no government, the people have no moral, they do have, isn't this what the people, like the second part, that people have no moral duties towards one another, isn't that what the rejection, those who reject, say that they can do whatever they want because they have no more moral duties?
Yes, that's what they think, right?
Yeah.
And so aren't we saying it does not follow logically to think this?
Yeah, I guess the no government is
Backwards, right? It feels weird.
Yeah, because I was gonna say the no government is morally better part he says, but like he is
So
in the
we're
author.
saying, yeah, okay. So we're saying that it does not, for people that think of philosophical anarchism, the two things that you think actually don't follow from what you think. And isn't that what he's doing in this whole thing?
Yeah.
You predicted this. It's just worded really funny.
Okay. So then if this
Like,
is the right
saying,
one.
like, the criticism that people have is not good criticism, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So then if it's between this one and A, is A too strong because
Yeah.
this is highly?
Some views that certain commentators consider to be implications of we are against what the critics think are bad about philosophical anarchism. Like, right? So it's that this is what makes this passage so hard is we are against the critics being against something.
Yeah, so we're against what the critics say and we prove them wrong in the final two paragraphs.
Or attempt to, yes.
Yeah.
So some views that certain commentators consider to be use of philosophical anarchism is highly counterintuitive. It's not necessarily that it's high, like we are against what they think is true. So we're not saying that what they think to be implications is counterintuitive. Like,
because he does say the word counterintuitive, like but I thought maybe like we would cross it off because highly is too strong.
highly, yeah, that would be yes, that alone is a good reason to, yes.
Okay. D, even if, as certain philosophical anarchists claim, government laws lack moral.
Wait, I want to go back to A for a second. So there are critics that think the implications of philosophical anarchisms are counterintuitive, right? There are people that think that. We are against what those people think are saying.
Yeah.
So that's why A is wrong too. Like A is the backwards.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now.
While like this might be true,
Mm-hmm.
we are against these people that think this. And so A
Okay.
is too narrow of an answer.
I see. So A is not really addressing like the fact that we are against it. We're just
Yeah, and this
we're
goes
just
back,
saying the
it goes
beginning, but not saying we're against it as the main point.
yes, there we go. That's a better way of me. It goes back to whenever we really focus on what the purpose of the article is, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's a big difference between A and C.
Okay. I guess it's just the way it's worded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Well,
this.
yeah. Like it doesn't. Like, we have this is more of an opinion, like persuasive cost benefit analysis, right? Like this is more like yeah, we're not just stating a fact. Like this A would be an answer if this was like just an informative piece of like, hey, this is what happened. But we have opinion coming out in this article too much for A to be the correct answer.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I guess yeah, like I didn't like C just because like you said it's written backwards. Because it is what I predicted, but yeah.
Yeah, essentially those people that think that, it doesn't follow logically for them to think that, is what C is saying.
To D, even if, as certain philosophical anarchists claim, governmental laws lack moral force, people still have a moral obligation to refrain from harming one another. No, I don't like this one. It's the governmental laws that lack moral force part.
Yeah, and this is too narrow, right? This is just supporting, like we use this as a detail in our
Yeah.
passage. Excellent. All right, and then what about E?
Contrary to what some of its opponents have claimed, philosophical anarchism does not conflict with the ordinary view that one should obey the law because it is the law. That's not like the view that it conflicts with.
Yeah, I feel like E is like, and we actually do think that they do conflict with this ordinary view, right?
Yeah, it's just that's not the ordinary view.
Excellent.
That was a really hard main point question.
You might have got, do you think you would have went with A over C?
I think I would have been between the two, but maybe I don't know if I would have caught on to C
Oh,
being
actually, yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, so the author identifies which of the following as a commonly held belief. So here, I either would like control F if I believe, or I would try to predict like what do I think the author says is a commonly held belief. And do you remember anything?
I think it's the beginning, isn't it? Like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. And if so, before I would go into it, if I remembered exactly where it's at, depending on how confident I was, I might just go find it quickly and then read it before going in, just depending on how much time you have. So here it says,
not all governments have a moral right to govern.
yep.
And yeah, sometimes it can be illegitimate reasons.
All right, so go ahead and start with A.
In most cases, we are morally obligated to obey the law simply because it is the law. I'm going to say no.
Okay.
And B, all governments are in essence morally equal. No.
Okay.
We are morally bound to obey only those laws we participate in establishing. I don't like C.
Okay.
Oh, I like A the best after reading them.
Yes. Okay. So this says in most cases we are morally obligated simply because it is the law. So if we go back to our passage, this was towards the beginning, oh, where it says, actually, it was at the end. Oh, at the example, we generally have a moral duty to obey a law simply because it is the law.
Yeah. Oh, so that was the common one in the first
Yeah.
question too then.
And what this is asking you about is it's testing if you understand what this, like, oh, this is an example of what came before. It's testing
Mhm.
your structure of understanding that that is an example, like that fits into that category.
I see, okay. As one of the commonly held beliefs.
Yes. All right. The author's stance regarding the theory of philosophical anarchism can most accurately be described as one of. So, what is our stance towards this theory?
That the people who, well, they don't, I guess, kind of like acceptance or approval. Like they do, like I want to say that they like it, but they're not like telling us that we need to do it.
I
Kind of
feel
thing.
like they're sympathetic towards it. They're like, I feel like they at least like rebuttal for it a lot, right?
Yeah,
Like,
like it's
they're
almost like
like, back
people.
off of them, let them do their thing.
Yeah, like people misunderstand them.
Oh, I like that. So
Yeah,
yeah, so I feel like honest, it's like a 3. If it's like 1 is negative, 5 is positive, I feel like it's a 3 of neutral skewed positive.
yeah,
But
I
it's
like that
not
too.
strong. Okay, cool.
So I don't like A because it's ardent approval is strong.
Yeah, like we don't go in and say we approve of most aspects of it. Definitely
Yeah,
not. Way too strong. Okay.
apparent acceptance of some of the basic positions of the theory. Um, I don't know if I like this one. Like apparent acceptance is like they.
Oh,
I guess it's like the positive part that we said.
okay. So we're
So
accepting the theory. And I don't hate the sum because it's saying like there's at least one position. And I feel like we do accept some positions of the theory, right?
yeah, we accept the two that the people don't
You
like.
should drive on the right side of the road. So
Mhm.
I feel like we do have acceptance of some of the basic positions.
Okay, we'll keep her in the running.
All right. What about C?
Concerned pessimism about to avoid. No, we don't mention any extreme views to avoid or anything.
Excellent.
And we don't have any rejection of the central
Yes. We don't
features.
reject it. We don't say like this is bad about the theory at all.
Resolute antipathy towards both the theory and certain of its logical consequences. We don't know its logical. We don't know what any of the consequences are of it.
And certain of
Strong.
its yeah, certain of its like what logical consequences are we certain of?
Yeah.
Tell
So
me. I
I
don't know.
would go with B after reading all of them.
Yeah, and I like that you're critical of B. I like that you left it open, but I like that you were critical and then you came back to it and you're like that clearly is the best answer out of all of these.
Yeah, like I guess it just because like he just basically is like, no, you're wrong about this, but he doesn't really give his opinion of like, I accept it. That's
I
where
agree.
I'm like,
Where
yeah,
I feel like the apparent acceptance, we have to read the rest of it. It's saying a part he does give acceptance of at least one of the basic positions.
yeah,
He's not accepting the theory as a whole. He's accepting certain parts of it.
the two, yeah.
Which even if it is just like you should drive on the right side of the road. I think he accepts that theory.
Mhm.
Okay, so by attributing to commentators the view that philosophical anarchism has implications that are counterintuitive, the author most likely means that the commentators believe that. So what do you think the commentators believe? Do you want to go back to it or?
Um, Before going back, I guess it's just that they like misunderstand kind of their beliefs and that they believe that they're almost like I guess like harsher than they are. Like I took it as like we believe like that they like the one view is that they can basically do whatever they want because that they don't believe in like obeying to the government.
Yes. So it's like conflicting.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead and start with A.
The implications conflict with some commonly held beliefs. Okay, I like A. We can
Yeah,
keep
me too. All right.
some is good too.
Yeah, with one. Yes, I like that. All right. What about B?
There is little empirical evidence that the implications are actually true. There's none. We don't have any
Empirical
evidence.
evidence. Yeah. Excellent.
Common sense indicates that philosophical anarchism does not have such implications. I don't even like it because it says common sense.
I'm like, um, the commentators must believe that the implications follow from. I don't like that. Definitely is not like we're trying to. That's not what they are counterintuitive. Like, yeah,
Mm-mm.
that's not what's conflicting. Excellent. What about D?
The implications appear to be incompatible with each other. I kind of like D because I feel like it's mentioned at one point that they conflict with each other, the two implications.
Okay, we'll leave that one.
And then each of the implications contains an internal logic. No, we don't know what the logical inconsistency is.
Yeah, I feel like logical inconsistency is stronger than counterintuitive,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, okay, so let's think about this. Like, what does counterintuitive mean?
It's one of those words that like you use in your daily life, but if you ask me to give a definition of,
Like, I feel like counterintuitive is like you have one goal,
mm-hmm.
but like you do something that like even though you have that goal in mind, you're doing something that almost like backtracks you, right? Like it's
Yeah,
counterintuitive. And so by saying that the commentator's view has implications that are counterintuitive, the author most likely believes that that means that the commentators believe that um
I like A better now, like knowing what counterintuitive means.
by attributing to commentators the view that philosophy has implications that are yeah, it's I feel like it's things that like they have to like conflict or like goes against it where
Mm-hmm.
D says implications appear I feel like incompatible is too strong.
Yeah, I
Not that
see
it can't happen. It's just like you guys are kind of loopy for having these views, right?
Yeah,
It seems something that is counterintuitive. It's like, yeah, it just kind of goes against what you would think.
yeah, and I guess like conflict with even like the beliefs within political anarchism, like what
And
they.
I love that this has some.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. What about 24? Go ahead and try this one on your own.
Scenarios most commonly conforms to the views. Can we scroll up
Yes,
to.
of course.
Okay, I got it. Moral duties.
Conforms to the views. Okay, so what are the philosophical anarchist views?
That even if there is no laws, or I guess because okay, even if there's no laws, that there's like this moral duty for the greater good between the people.
Yes. And so why does B work here?
Because she's even like even though she's done this act that is illegal this whole time, like it's bad, once she learns that the chemicals were actually contaminating the water supply, she's choosing not to do this practice anymore because the water supply, like she wants to do
Morally.
good.
Excellent. Great job.
Okay, sweet.
Awesome. All right. So go ahead and do. Can you see all three of these? If you do all three of them and then tell me your answers once you're
Yeah.
finished. Okay, cool. All right. So it can be inferred that the author would be most likely to agree that. So does the author agree with the fact that people are subject to more moral obligations than is generally held to be the case?
No.
No. All right, what about B? Governments that are morally superior recognize so that their citizens are not morally bound to obey their own laws. We have no idea what governments think, right?
No.
All right, C. One may have good reasons to support the efforts of one's government, even if one has no moral duty to obey its laws.
No. Oh wait, actually, okay. I left C and D. Actually, I kind of like if one has no moral duty to obey their laws.
Like, okay, so what? So one, like, okay, like what might this be? What would fit? What example would fit into this if this were true?
Well, actually, now like the next question lines 44 to 49 kind of fit into it because it had talked about like there's this positive moral obligation between people, and then it was like it can be discharged if they support a cooperative effort
Like,
by
like,
the
like
government.
the drive, like the driving on the right side of the road. Like, there's no moral obligation for me to drive on the right side of the road, right?
Mhm.
But I do so because, like, it makes sense for me to follow the government with that. Like, it's beyond that, right?
Yeah.
And then D says there are some sound arguments for claiming that most is very strong.
Yeah, that okay. I was between C and D, but I was like most is strong.
Most governments have a moral right to require obedience to their laws.
Require to.
Have a moral right to require obedience to the. I don't think that we even say that, do we? Anything close to
No.
that? I think they say that some laws might coincide with moral obligations, but the application to morality isn't a law.
Mm-mm.
And then E, the theory of philosophical anarchism entails certain fundamental principles regarding how laws should be enacted and enforced. I don't even know if we talk about how laws should be enacted and enforced.
No, he's not talking about how like we should implement philosophical anarchism and how it should go about. Like it's more like these just people are wrong about this.
Excellent. And then what did you get for number 26?
I said D.
Okay, so what do you like about D?
Indicate that philosophical anarchists recognize that people are subject to substantial moral obligations. Like they recognize that there are these moral obligations within society, even if government doesn't have a
Yeah,
role in
or the
enforcing them.
moral obligations that that anarchism says that everybody has.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And then what about 27?
27, I also said D.
Excellent. In the passage, the author primarily seeks to D, defend a particular theory against its critics by showing that their arguments are crap.
Sweet.
Look at you go.
Oh, okay. I feel much better.